What's up, guys? Garrett with Selftaughtdev. We are back tearing apart your resumes, which most of the time are actually pretty good. Because the thing about people that send in resumes for feedback is they're actively looking for ways to improve their resume. So most of the resumes I get are pretty good, and I don't really have feedback. So if I don't review your resume, assume that I don't have any feedback for it. Doesn't mean it's perfect, because there's always ways to improve anything in life. I just don't have any feedback for you. So let's get to it. First one here. All right, so I've been doing this. I found out I can do this in Photoshop. I can load the PDFs in Photoshop and then just redact the information with black squares. So might start doing this in Photoshop from now on, because when people send me their resumes in .docx format, Word doc format, a lot of the times the formatting is lost. Like this one, when I got it in Word format, the second column was on another page. So there's this big white blank space over here, and it looked really weird. First thing off, this resume here. We've got we got a 2-year gap in the work history, which is kind of odd. If you have a job right now, put that on here. Or if you're still working at this job, put September 2018 to current. We've got a lot of inconsistencies on here. Where is my pen that I could draw stuff with? And then we got to select the right layer. So this layer, right? Boom. So like the spacing between here and here and here and then here is not consistent. You want to make that consistent because it just looks a little better. Without having the consistent spacing, the resume looks a little, it looks pretty unorganized. Also, the fact that you have this part right here taking up like the whole width, and then this one taking up one column, and this taking up one column, and then this part's 2 columns. That just looks kind of weird. I might center this one. That would help it look a little bit more normal. So like put the achievements in the center, and then also I would make those go to 2 separate lines. So have JavaScript certificate by SoloLearn, and then below that have Python certificate by SoloLearn. Also, if they actually gave you a certificate, link that, like hyperlink the JavaScript certificate part, so you can click on it and go see your certificate, because anybody can say they've got that. But if you can link to it and there's an actual certificate you can see, that's awesome. So what else do we have here? I recently graduated, love to work. So you want to work in the IT industry. In your skills, you've got junior software developer / data engineer, infrastructure engineer. So this is kind of weird. I'd probably take that part off and just have your skills here. So like you want to have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then you want to have Python, Django, Flask. Knowledge of software development doesn't really mean anything, so you can take that off. Software development lifecycle. You could say knowledge of software development lifecycle. That kind of means a little bit. I wouldn't put the abbreviation here though. Microsoft Dynamics Nav, that's good. Windows 12, 16 server admin, that's a skill, good. So that's set nice. I would get rid of the justified content, so there's not the big spaces. We want to make the spaces consistent. That's another thing that kind of affects making it look organized. And then I'm jumping all around because my ADD is really bad today. But the dates here, make this right aligned as well, so the dates are in the same place and those are consistent. If you're going to have bullet points for this job, I would put some bullet points for this one as well. Accounting clerk as a volunteer. So yeah, just put like 1 or 2 bullet points of like, I don't know what you did there, but like put anything, 1 or 2 bullet points to make it look more consistent. This is kind of long. Let's see, let me read this real quick. Okay, so you say you have an in-depth knowledge of computer programming languages such as Python and JavaScript. Have you built anything in Python and JavaScript or HTML, CSS, or with Django and Flask? If you have, put it on GitHub and make a projects section. If you need room to keep this on one page when you add the projects section, just take off the references, because if they need references, they'll ask for the references and then you can give them the references. But put a projects section with links to your GitHub, or preferably if they're like live and you can play around with the projects, or if it's just a script, make a video of you talking about the project and kind of going over the script, saying, hey, this is what it does, blah, 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 whatever it does. Put it on YouTube, and then put a link to the video in your GitHub repo in the README for that project. If you need software, OBS is what I use. It lets you screen record, and then if you have a webcam, it records that, and you can like configure whatever audio you need. So OBS is pretty good if you ever need any kind of screen recording or just recording stuff in general. But I think that's this stuff right here, like below your education background. Why is it all the weird spacing? I don't understand that. Like, that's indented, this part's not indented, this is all the way on the side here. That looks really weird. I'd probably just left align all of that instead of having the big spaces. And then also don't justify the content, so the spacing between the words is equal. It doesn't have to span the whole line. And then on your skills, use bullet points. So don't say front-end tools, just have a bullet point for HTML, bullet point for CSS, bullet point for JavaScript, bullet point for Python, Django, Flask, one for each of those. You get what I'm saying. But hope that helps. And then when you make a GitHub with your code on it, link that up here so they can go to that. Also, if you have a LinkedIn, link that up here. I don't think you had a LinkedIn. If you don't, make one and link that up there. And then don't put your date of birth either, actually, because you don't want to give them anything. They can rule you. You're trying to get them to call you in for an interview. And if they're like, all right, we kind of want an older person for this role. If you're in the States, I don't think they can legally do that. I don't know if you can say, hey, we need an old person for this job. Don't put your birthday on there. Don't give them a reason not to call you. Because they'll be like, hey, this is your first job out of college, or you're super young. We want somebody with experience. And if they bring you in for an interview, you can kind of explain stuff. All right, so next one we got here. So first thing, I would get rid of the picture there. You don't really need that. You've got your email, phone number, you had your country, and yeah, I think you had your country there. So that's cool. I wouldn't put like the exact city you live in if you're trying to get a job outside of the city. The GPA. I don't know if that's a good GPA or not, because I'm not familiar with GPAs outside of the States, but I would only put your GPA if it's in the top 80% of GPAs. Like here, it goes on a scale from 0 to 4. Like 0 is you made like all Fs, the worst grades possible. 4.0 is you made all As, all the best grades possible. I would only put your GPA if you made like above a 3.5. That's probably not 80%, but I'd only put your GPA if it's in like the top 80% of the GPA scale. Education, good. So we've got this big white space down here, which looks really weird. I think you can fix that if you switch this from 2 columns to 1 column. So since you went to school for civil engineering, I'm assuming, but you want to be a data scientist, I believe, from your email. So I would probably organize it like skills, personal projects, work experience, education, certificates. Now, I'm not a data scientist. I don't really know any data scientists, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. But that's the way I'd organize it. These projects, I'm assuming you have code for that or something like that. So put that on GitHub and then link these to GitHub. If there's any like display you can show to show the graph of the data, link that up too. That'd be awesome. It's good that these certificates are hyperlinked. I'm assuming those are hyperlinks. It's in Photoshop, so I can't click on them, but I like those are linked up. You don't really need the dates on these projects though, so you can take that off. And then I do like that you're putting like pandas, matplotlib, you're putting the libraries you used and the skills you used on it. In this one, if you used Python or SQL, I'd probably add another bullet point and put like Python SQL, or like put skills used, Python SQL, or whatever skills you used on it. If you went to college, if your major was civil engineering, you could put, I'm assuming this is, like here we have like Bachelor of Science Marketing. That's what my degree was. So if this is like Bachelor of Engineering - Civil Engineering, you could put that if your major was civil engineering, and then you can just get rid of the courses down here because that doesn't really mean a whole lot if your whole major was civil engineering. And then same thing with the GPA here. Languages are good, interests. If you need more room when you convert this to a single column, you can take off interest because those aren't super important. But overall, like pretty good resume. Cool, so next one here. Oh, right, this one. Let's see here, where's the layer I need to draw on? All right, so the skills, I would get rid of these. I'm not a fan of the kind of having a chart of where you're at skill-wise, and neither are a lot of the other people whose resume review videos I've watched. Your goal here with your resume is to get them to call you in for an interview, and then their job is to assess your skill level and make sure you're a good fit for the company. And your job becomes to make sure they're gonna be a good fit for you too, right? It's like a two-way street. So I would take those off and just list like your skills with bullet points. You could break that into like 2 columns so it's not a big empty white space there after that's gone. And that is gonna free up some space. So what else could we do? Certificates. I would link these up. If you have links to those certificates, hyperlink those to the certificate page. Like that you have your GitHub and LinkedIn. Do you not have a portfolio? I don't see that linked up anywhere on here. Build a portfolio and link that up on here too. I think you can have, like GitHub offers a way you can have static web pages, or Heroku, you can host 5 free projects. So you can build a site and deploy it to Heroku with like React or something like that if you want to learn React. Like that you have your work experience up here, that's good. Intern, creativity agency, that's good too. Personal projects, make sure those are on GitHub and link those up so they can go see the code, and then have a link in your GitHub README to a live version of those projects. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 4 projects, plus your portfolio. You can fill out all 5 slots on Heroku with the 5 free things you can host. And then I'd also put what skills you use on each of these projects too. So like this says website, so I'm assuming it'd just be like HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, and then put the skills you used for each one of these too. The text reader sounds kind of awesome. Education, I don't really understand why there's this indentation right here. It's not aligned with this part, so I'd probably remove that indentation. I don't know if you really need interest on there, but besides that, this one's pretty good. I like the squares over here. It's like a good design little element. The design looks pretty good. I'd take your picture off too. Some of the recruiters I've talked to are not a fan of pictures on resumes. So, all right, next one here, Diego's. So I like that you had your portfolio linked up here. I would probably, no, it's good. As long as they're hyperlinked, you're good. I was thinking about saying, hey, make sure this is like your full portfolio URL, but as long as it's hyperlinked, you're good. Technical skills, it's kind of, the margin's kind of tight on the bottom here. I try to make that spacing consistent with what you have on the top up here. I would move these bullet points over, and that will decrease the space this text takes up because it'll have more room. Because like right now, your portfolio seems like really, or your resume seems really dense, and all the bolded words, while I like bolded words most of the time, it looks the same as the titles here, so it just kind of all blends together. I also really like that you have statistics in here, like cut down the number of failed code commits by 20%. That is what I'm talking about when I say add statistics to your stuff. That's a really good one. All right, you got all your projects hyperlinked, perfect. Soft skills, I would take that off, and then you can make these titles a little bit bigger, and that'll help them stand out from the bolded text more. I know you're trying to make these look different from the actual title right here, but you need them to look noticeably different from the bold text as well, because they just kind of blend in with the bold text. So take off soft skills, try to kind of like decompress it a little bit so it's easier to read, and then you can move these bullet points over too, and then the text part will come back a little bit when you move those bullet points over. So yeah, if we just fix the formatting on this one a little bit, with like how compressed it is, we just got to decompress it a little bit, and then this is a great resume because you've got everything linked up, you've got all your links up here. I don't know if you had your phone number on there. I would probably put your phone number because that's going to be the easiest way for them to get in contact with you. You want them to just be able to call you, you answer, you're like, Thursday at 5? Yeah, I'll be there. or maybe Thursday like 10 or something like that, because I don't know if you'd have an interview that late. Also, when you get interviews, try to schedule them as early in the day as possible, because later in the day, they are more tired and they are looking forward to going home more. So they're not going to be paying as much attention as they would be in the morning. You get to work in the morning. You're like, all right, cool, let's get this stuff done, and you're in a better mood. You're more awake and you're paying more attention in the morning. It's just better to have your interviews in the morning. All right, next one here. Oh wait, we're gonna check out your portfolio too real quick, because your portfolio looked pretty good. And it's the only resume with a portfolio on it, I think. So I like this text animation here. Something I did notice on mobile, there's this big space at the top. You fix that. That looks kind of weird. And that's an easy fix too. And then this is clickable, but it doesn't do anything. I'm assuming you need to have an ID somewhere down here that it links to. So you click on that and it scrolls down automatically. And then I like that you have these linked up. I would make your resume, make that a button. So like, just type in like resume button on the internet and put one there. That kind of helps it stand out more from this text. Live Twitter dashboard, so that links to your actual projects on Heroku. Now Heroku takes some time to spin up most of the time, because when your projects aren't used for a while, it basically like puts them to sleep so they have space on their servers. But I'm assuming those all work. Check out how it was built. What does that go to? The GitHub, sweet. You have a really good looking README here. That's awesome. And then you have these broken out into columns. So that looks like a great portfolio. I would put contact information on here so they can contact you easy. Because if they look at your portfolio and they're like, whoa, this is awesome, we want to give this guy a call. How do we call him? What? LinkedIn? GitHub? No phone number. So you want to make it as easy as possible for them to get in contact with you. Besides that, that's like that's pretty good. All right, now Amal. Amal's not going to walk the path of the dev, I don't think. I think he's just looking for his first job out of high school and or college. Yeah, out of college. So cool. Something I would take off Instagram. Where's my pin? Yeah, I would take off Instagram and then take off Facebook, because those aren't super professional. You don't really want those on your portfolio. And then maybe take off Twitter too, just depending on what you have on there. As long as it's professional stuff, you can keep it on there. I'd take off your address, depending on where you want a job. Or even if you want it in your current city, I'd take it off, because if you live in like a bad part of town, or there's a lot of stuff they could rule you out on based off your address. So take your address off, just have email, phone number, LinkedIn, and then maybe Twitter. I'd take your picture off too. We don't have a whole lot, since I'm assuming this is going to be like for your first job. I would probably center your name right here. I think you only had your first name and your middle initial, so I would put your last name on there too, because the links to LinkedIn and Facebook, they had another name at the end, so I'm assuming that was your last name. I'd put that on there as well. Education. So to kind of fill this out a little bit more, we could switch this to like a single column kind of deal. Maybe. I don't know if that'd work actually, with your education being so small. With like, what do you want to do? Do you want to code? If you do, go to Free Code Camp, do Free Code Camp, get some certificates so you can link those up on here. Do you want to stay in business, since you majored in international business? If you do, awesome. Get on LinkedIn and do some kind of like business certifications, so you can add those on here, because you want to continue learning even after you graduate. I know it looks like you're just starting college, but it helps a lot if you're going above and beyond what the average person's doing. So right now you're in college, you're just an average college person, but if you're studying on your own outside of college, that's going to help you get a lot farther, a lot faster. Which actually you do have certificates here, so that's good. If you have certificates from those, I would link up to those so they can go see the certificate. The skills, you could probably make that one column. So take up like one column here and then just expand those. You might just have like 1 or 2 lines of skills: critical thinking, people management, leadership, self-confidence, teamwork. Those skills don't really mean a whole lot. They're kind of like buzzwords, but since it's going to be for your first job and we just need to fill up space, I'm cool with that being on there. If languages, native, fully proficient, Limited work proficiency, cool. Interests. Usually we're not going to have that on there, but since it's, like you said, your first job, I'm assuming this is your first job. You don't have any kind of like work experience on there, so if I'm making a wrong assumption, my bad. Activities. I'd put a few bullet points here of like what you did, like voluntary work to help the community. Like what is, I don't know what NSS is, so I'd probably put the whole name there and then put a few bullet points of what you did. Participated in table tennis, college level, that's cool. Join more organizations, because college, if it's anything like it is in the US, college is mostly for, unless you're going for like engineering. You're going for business, so college is mostly about making connections for you. So you want to be as involved in college as possible and make as many connections as you can. That's how you get the most out of it if you're going for business. And then last thing I'd say is like if you want to work in business, you probably got some kind of like entrepreneurial spirit. So look into kind of anything you can, any kind of business you can create that you could add on here. Or start clubs in college too. Like, do you like chess? I like chess, and there wasn't a chess club at my college, so I started a chess club. I tried to start Rocket Club, but I started that too late, and I graduated before I could get anything going. So if there's any kind of interest you have that aren't at your college, try to start clubs, be a leader, and you'll go far in life. So I think that's about it. I think that's all I got for today. If you want me to review your resume, feel free to send it in any format, preferably PDF format. Now that I figured out I can open it in Photoshop, because now I can just blank out information. And sometimes when you send it to me in Word document format, the formatting's thrown off. Like I said, I think this one was split up on 2 pages. Like this whole section here was down on a second page. I will block out your contact information. If you are into tech and want to come talk tech, there's a Discord link in the description below. If you are trying to get a job in tech, don't have any experience, and want my resume template, 1, check out the video, because that is where I go over my resume template, and 2, look in the description, because I will have a way you can get my resume template so you don't have to send yours in to get reviewed. You can just switch out that information on my resume template, and I will see you next time. Peace.
Round 1.